Hi, it's Fitz with Slap Chop.
I want to talk to you guys today about this awesome new app that I found called Candid.
Billy Mays here for OxiClean, the stain specialist.
Today we're using the app known as Candid, the anonymous posting app.
Hi, Anthony Sullivan here for the Grater plater. It's no ordinary plate.
Hey, so if you guys couldn't tell by now, this is a sponsored video by Candid.
Hi, I'm Ron Popeil. It took me over 10 long years to invent a fryer that's small, safe, easy to clean.
So what I'd like to tell you about is a new app recently released by Candid.
Hi, Billy Mays here for the Gopher, the handy helper that reaches so you don't have to.
That's why I'm proud to be sponsored by a great new social media app called Candid.
Hi, it's Fitz with Sham.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Rich of ReviewTechUSA, and I am very proud to have this video be sponsored by Candid.
Hi, QQ here to tell you about a great new app called Candid. Oh, wait, that's not what we're here for at all. Well, I knew this was gonna happen. After YouTube announced all its changes to its AdSense policy, I just knew that YouTubers were gonna start looking for alternate ways to make a buck. And here you have it, they're all jumping on that paid promotion bandwagon. Now, there's a lot of words for paid promotions. You can call them sponsored content, you can call them native advertising, but let's take a little look at how a company that's near and dear to our hearts did their native advertisements. I'm talking about everyone's favorite defunct clickbait blog, Gopher. Believe it or not, Gopher's standards for native advertisement were actually quite high inside the company. They kept their native advertisement team completely separate from the editorial team. Literally. The team charged with writing their native advertisements was on the third floor of their building, completely separate from the team that was charged with writing their regular articles, which lived on the fourth floor. There's a reason for this, and it's actually quite simple. Part of the reason is time. If you keep the team separate, you can have them focus on their specialities. But another one is to prevent contamination. You want the team that's having advertisers writing checks to them to be separate from the team that's producing your regular content. You wouldn't want your regular Kotaku writers to be a part of the same team that's regularly being written checks by Activision. And so Gopher Media created Studio at Gopher, a studio with its own separate staff of around 12 people that would also hire freelancers if they needed to cover something outside the expertise of those people. So there you have it. Even the internet's shithole of internet blogging had the sense to keep editorial staff and sponsored staff separate from each other. Now, I know you're probably asking at this point, what the heck does this have to do with Candid? Or perhaps even, what the heck is Candid? Well, let me give you a little bit of background information. Recently, a whole bunch of sponsored videos cropped up. Sponsored videos by the like of MundaneMatt, Black Pigeon, Shoe on Head and Armored Skeptic, ReviewTechUSA, MrRepzion, Bearing, and Amazing Atheist. Quite an interesting selection, wouldn't you say? With the possible exception of ReviewTechUSA, I would describe all of those people as being a part of the quote-unquote anti-SJW crowd. What were these sponsored videos for? Well, it was for an app called Candid. So Candid is a social media app that allows people to make posts quote-unquote anonymously. You have to put big, bold quotes around the word anonymous, because they don't mean within the safety of true anonymity. All that they mean is that a pseudonym is not presented to other users. And the entire thing is ruled over by a benevolent AI dictator, at least in theory, which moderates everyone's posts to make sure that they're the right kinds of posts for the platform. It has to make sure that we're all happy citizens of Alpha Complex, and that we don't say anything that goes against Friend Computer's will. Well, that doesn't sound like a haven for censorship at all. But what's also interesting is that they're also paying SJWs themselves to produce sponsored content about their app. Now, I find that to be rather bizarre. I mean, it sounds like that would make your platform into a shithole, just inviting the two groups that hate each other to argue all the time. But we'll get back to that in a little bit. Let's speculate on motivations a bit. Now, when it comes to the YouTubers who are producing this content, their motivations are absolutely clear to see. They're doing it for the money. The motivations behind Candid are a little bit more opaque. We're going to have to speculate about why they want to advertise to these specific demographics. So let's summarize the situation again. Candid has an app that allows you to post quote-unquote anonymously. One of the big features of the platform is that it's automatically moderated by an AI that learns as you post. They currently don't show ads or anything, so their future revenue model is a mystery. However, they do seem to have a lot of money on hand because they're able to buy all these different sponsored videos from YouTubers. And the YouTubers that they're targeting with this sponsored content seem to be ones with very specific political views. So I have two theories about why they're doing this, one of which has mountains of evidence behind it, and the other one they have offered a suspiciously specific denial over. So let's go over the first one first. And for this one, I have a pair of questions to ask you that will help to outline some of the dynamics that are at play here. Question number 1. If you were a big soulless company, would you keep paying an influencer if they started dissing your product? And question number 2. If you are an influencer, would you diss a product while the company is paying you? Now, question 1 has various answers depending on which company you're talking about. It actually doesn't matter how many companies would or would not cut off an influencer's revenue stream if they started dissing their product. All that matters is the perception by influencers that some companies would engage in that behavior. And that brings us to question 2. Would you diss a product while the company is paying you? If social media had been invented earlier, I somewhat doubt that Billy Mays would use his account to say how much of a ripoff OxiClean was in his opinion. So what you have here is one possible motivation for Candid to be paying a whole bunch of people who are likely to have deep philosophical opposition to something that their platform is doing. They're buying silence. They're essentially giving out bribes to make sure a certain group of YouTubers don't criticize their product. We've seen this kind of thing happen before in the case of Niche Gamer, PAX, and Roguestar. Slade Velena, alias Roguestar, was working on a game called FleetCom that he was going to be showing off at PAX. A game site, Niche Gamer, made an announcement that FleetCom was paying for their lodging costs at PAX. A lot of people weren't happy with this. Niche Gamer promised to recuse themselves from ever covering FleetCom, and everyone was happy, right? Just one little problem. FleetCom on launch was universally panned by almost every site that covered it. Niche Gamer, however, had nothing to say about FleetCom. In fact, they were forced to hold their tongue because of their financial relationship with the creator of the game. Basically what this means is actions that looked innocuous at the time ended up having a silencing effect. And I can't prove it, but I think that Slade Velena was absolutely aware that this would be one of the outcomes. Now, in the case of Candid, there's actually a lot less speculation involved. I'm going to play you a clip from Harmful Opinions. There's a link to the original video down below. But what I want you to keep in mind as you're watching this is the possibility that Candid may be trying to buy people's silence, buy the silence of people who would otherwise criticize their product.
Let's see if you can spot what I found a bit off in the CEO's messages to me. I don't think you are representing us correctly. We are all for candid conversations. I am happy to chat with you phone. Hey, my email's, it's out there, but I'm not going to put it in this video. If you send me a statement regarding what you think is wrong with my video, along with anything else you want to say, I'll put it, unedited, at the top of my video's description. Sounds good. Thanks so much. Sending it now. By the way, do you want to do a call? I would love for you to do a video in more detail. I am looking for someone who can take the time to explain the point of Candid well. It would be great to have you do something. I definitely think it's worth a conversation. That's the point at which I decided, nah, everything in writing please. You get me?
This is one of the reasons why I'm generally opposed to all paid promotions, whether they're disclosed or not. Because even if disclosed, they create this perverse incentive structure where you praise products that you would not normally praise, and you refrain from criticizing products that you would normally criticize, especially if there's potential for future offers from the same company. And since the Amazing Atheist has already done not one, but 2 videos about Candid, I would say that that possibility is absolutely present in this case. Another thing that you, the viewer, should be aware of is that when they talk about disclosure in this case, they're not actually talking about full disclosure. All that we are made aware of is that some kind of deal took place and that money changed hands. We don't know the terms of the deal beyond that. We don't know if they're told exactly what they're supposed to say, if they're given talking points, if there's things that they're supposed to avoid talking about, or even if the terms of the deal dictate their social media conduct afterwards. With regards to all of these things, we're left in the dark, and any attempts to press these YouTubers into releasing the terms of the deal fall on deaf ears. Now, there's probably some kind of non-disclosure agreement in place, but whenever there's an NDA over something that innocuous, it makes me wonder if it's not actually that innocuous in the first place. I wanted to bring up one other perverse incentive that I think may be involved here, because I keep seeing it crop up on Twitter, and that is, I think that some people are thinking that this whole Candid situation is attacking their business model, of taking paid promotions. And honestly, I think that they should be a bit afraid. This is eroding trust in that model. But honestly, they have no one to thank but themselves for that. If they're gonna accept a paid promotion and make statements about a product that don't hold up to the smallest bit of scrutiny, then you are gonna lose the trust of your viewers. This is why I don't think the statement that paid promotions are selling the trust of your audience should be at all controversial. That's actually exactly what you're doing. The difference between advertisements and native advertisements is that advertisements, you're just selling your viewers' eyeballs. Native advertisements, you're selling the relationship that you have with your viewer, the relationship of trust. You're basically saying that there's a price for that. And of course, everything with a price has a cost. And the cost is you will lose some of your viewers' trust if you start taking promotions like this. So that's one possible motivation that Candid has in paying all these YouTubers to do promotions. They're preemptively stemming any criticism of their platform. We're just all quite lucky that some of us can't be bought. So if this is their motivation, the solution is simple. Just stop watching paid promotions. The level of disclosure that the FTC mandates is of the level that you know in advance whether or not it is a paid promotion, which means that you have enough information going in to completely avoid them. And in fact, I'd argue that you should avoid them. Remember, all ads lie and all ads deceive. You cannot come out of watching a paid promotion a more informed consumer. You can only come out being less informed. However, I think there's a possibility that's worth considering, especially when you think about the demographics that they're choosing to advertise to. Why are they submerging themselves directly into the stormy seas of the culture war if they're trying to make a new platform? And to explore this other possible motivation, we'll have to look a little bit into how learning algorithms work, and more specifically, why they can't just use an old school spam filter, and why they need active participation in order to train their AI. And trust me, they are using a natural language processing AI. Candid CEO has outright admitted to it.
All of our posts and comments on Candid go through an NLP algorithm which analyzes and detects sentiment, detects things like slander and hate speech. A machine is going to detect if you're being hateful or spiteful or annoying, and it's going to decide whether your comment or your post should stay on or this is something which should be taken out.
Now, she has tried to say on her blog that her AI is very domain specific, but I'm going to call BS on that. This isn't like saying that they're making a chess AI and it's never going to play checkers. They're making a social media processing AI, and I don't see why it couldn't process any form of social media. At the very least, their corpus will still be valuable to be ingested by other AIs, but I'll get to that in a bit. So why do they need AI at all instead of just a dumb filter? Well, over the decades, they've discovered that analysis of language in interaction with human beings, it can't be parameterized by straightforward mathematical equations or procedural algorithms. If that were the case, there'd be no market for artificial intelligence or natural language processing. What is found to work is the use of a large number of multi-level nodes in a neuromorphic structure that's often called a deep learning network. Initially, the state of these nodes are zeroed out or randomized, and in this state, the AI is like a baby. In order for it to function correctly, it has to be trained with large amounts of data. Let's put some numbers to this idea. A learning algorithm generally requires about a 100-fold increase in data for every 10-fold increase in accuracy. Let's say that you have an AI that correctly classifies posts as triggering and non-triggering. Let's say that this artificial SJW has an accuracy of 1% after being trained by data from 10,000 messages. To attain 99% accuracy, you'll need at least 100 million messages. The formal terminology for such a large set of data is a corpus, and access to such a corpus can fetch a high price on its own. But if the goal is to target particularly problematic speech, the data would have to contain a higher percentage of triggering posts compared to your average social media platform. It's important to note, for this to be a commercial rather than an academic project, it would also need a large number of SJWs to process the data. A human operator will have to grade each message as triggering or non-triggering in a process known as supervised learning. The more people post and the more people report, the more the AI learns. So does it make sense to you now why the BeCandid team chose to target the audience of anti-SJW related e-celebs, while also simultaneously marketing to SJWs themselves? One community was deemed problematic by the establishment, and a corpus of their posts was required, along with a rating of each of those posts. There is no doubt that by marrying a community of image board users with SJWs, that a fusion of conflict can be brewed for long enough to give birth to an artificial hot pocketeer that can be replicated and reproduced all over the internet. But this also has a solution. This isn't the first time we've had to go up against artificial intelligence. In fact, if you think about it, we've been training for this moment all of our lives. Unless you only play multiplayer games exclusively, you've always struggled against AI adversaries, usually in some cheesy Japanese plot to save the entire world. Well, it isn't a game anymore. We can beat this AI just like we turned Tay on its creator. We can either choose to avoid Candid altogether and turn others away from it, denying them their corpus, or we can report posts randomly, poisoning the dataset and leaving them unable to sell their automated censor. And yes, I know they promise never to sell user data, but the thing is, they have no business model at this point in time. They have no means by which to bring in money, which means someday their investors are going to come a-calling. Any company that has a business model which is acquire users, profit later, is usually looking to be sold sometime down the road. They're acquiring a user base because that in and of itself is viewed as being of value. What that means is, under new ownership, any promises that the Candid team made are now null and void. And if part of the value of their platform is this AI, well, that's what they're going to be bought for. Either way, your course of action now should be clear. Stop letting yourself be deceived by sponsored content. Stop watching it altogether if you can. And don't let the AI win.